that's what this great resignation thing is about. It's an awakening that the workplace
Yeah.
has become so inauthentic that there is a wildfire of lack of integrity.
Get ready to dive right into this conversation with Rachel Keck, best-selling author of the book, Not Everyone is Like You. Rachel is a coach and consultant working at the intersection of workplace culture and customer service, where integrity, authenticity, and connectedness are key. As you can imagine, we have a lot to chat about. So let's go. Okay, yeah, so carry on.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. Well, I was just going to say, give me a little snippet about what your vision is with this. I love
Yeah.
I love the concept and what you're putting out there.
Oh,
So
awesome. Yeah, no, I really the difference it's made for me, like last week was my last day at corporate, and I've decided that like
mm,
I'm done. Like I line in the sand, like I don't care what's next for me, but it like
it's not
we're not
this.
going back. Yeah. So, which is a very freeing
Awesome.
decision to have all of
Yeah.
the conversations that I feel like I've wanted to
Mm-hmm.
have over the years of just kind of along the things that you're doing. I'm well, I don't know, but like from like the workplace culture and that sort of aspect,
Mm-hmm.
really just bringing things to light. Like it's not always about just like what is the management's vision, but really it comes down to those middle managers. Are they upholding the vision of the leaders and kind of the gaps that are present in that? So I want to kind of highlight that stuff
Mm-hmm.
with people who've experienced similar situations, but more importantly, I just want to kind of like bring to people's attention, like, hey, there's another way. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's women out here that are doing it their own way. They're making their own path. They're working for themselves. They're being like showing up, being the badass women they are. And like, we don't need that crap. So
Yeah.
that's my ultimate vision, is to bring those examples that I've really sought out over the years and then just kind of bring them to my family and friends and network and all of those things, and just women in general, to really empower women with decisions or
Yeah.
choices.
You know what's so interesting, Jamie, about that? So we had a Halloween party and so we just had like our kids' parents, our kids' friends, families,
Uh-huh.
and three of the dads were wanting, like, they're on their way out, or they're looking for really what's more meaningful work to them. And so to have the courage, like you, to say, because I think a lot of times you get stuck and then you are stuck, like you
Yeah.
feel like you have to have the next thing before you make a decision, which dams up the whole process. I mean, it's
Right.
like, and so to
Right.
actually have the courage to say, okay, it's not this, and I'm willing to step into the unknown to figure it out. Like
Yeah.
that's a huge first step, is that
Yeah.
that courage and willingness to do that.
Yeah. And I think that, not that I want to make this about me by any means, but I have the courage because I kind of did that a baby step a few years ago. I left and
Mm-hmm.
then I realized like my mental space was not in a position, like it all came
To
crashing
do.
down to where it was like, I am not prepared for this. And I did end up going back to
Yeah.
corporate. And but I've continued to work on myself over these last like 3-4 years, and just in a totally different space than I was whenever I
Yeah.
left at that point. So my goal is to
Fascinating.
have like women see, okay, here are some things that you can start doing right now while you're in corporate,
Mm-hmm.
just so you're not like totally out on a limb like I was the first time,
Yeah.
because I didn't realize I didn't know what I didn't know, right? So
Right.
it's that I really, it's the mental, and it's
Yeah.
the self growth that is
Mm-hmm.
that more than anything else, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I think too, what what that part of your story reminds me of is how much more powerful it is to move towards something than to be moving away from something.
Yeah.
right? We tend to get stuck. And I mean, when we just want to escape what we're in, then it doesn't really, that's
Yeah.
not an
The different
ideal
energy. Yeah.
place. Yeah, not an ideal place, because you're just going to actually escape into the same thing until you
Right.
can shift into what you're moving toward. I mean, so beautiful design of like getting out. Okay, you were just escaping, so you
Yeah.
went back to your comfort, but then you had your eye on something. Like, no, you had your eye on, you were moving towards something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also makes that easier to kind of let just kind of the other bullshit fall away. I mean, it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I
Yeah.
don't have to get so wrapped up in this drama because it's not ultimately my drama.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. Right. It detaches you a bit. You're not
yeah.
so, yeah, losing the forest for the trees. You're detached. Yeah, I'm curious, like what I was getting ready to rant about before I got on with you
Yes.
was integrity, because integrity, and I don't know, I'm curious about especially people wanting to leave corporate America, if the lack of integrity is a huge driver. And I don't think people think of it as integrity, right? Because they don't. And also that feels really like critical to say, oh my God, you have a lack of integrity.
Well,
But
I think it
it's
shows up in,
disintegrated stuff.
yes, it shows up in so many ways. And my personal opinion on that is yes, it is a lack of integrity, and also to that account, a lack of accountability. So
Mm.
it's one thing if you're like very self-sufficient and you do what you say you're going to do and you do all the things, but then like you're the easy kid, right? You don't have to be micromanaged, but then there's other people that impact your ability to do your job that are not doing theirs, and like it's the same issues over and over, so it's like you
Yeah.
just lose faith that something is going to change whenever it's like the same thing over and over and you're not witnessing any of like anything different, you know so and on the integrity aspect, I think there's such a disconnect whenever people um have values and their mission like pasted up on the walls, literally pasted on the
Yes.
walls, and then they don't follow them. And
Nowhere
then
to be
like,
found.
right. And then it's like, whoa, like,
Yeah, really?
really? Really,
Well,
people's your value? Because, you know,
yeah, that's not what I'm experiencing around here. Um, so to me, and you just helped me have this aha about how this all fits together. So my thing is connection, connectedness first. Like if we can be connected, then I mean however that looks, connected processes, connected people with each other. The connection is like this ideal place.
mhm,
But to support that connection, we need authenticity and integrity. And what I just realized from what you're saying is, I've always felt like that really to have accountability, you have to have clarity. You can't. Accountability is
right.
a joke, and it's really really hard. Actually, it's too hard if you don't have clarity. When you have clarity,
Right.
accountability is
So simple.
flows easily from that. Yeah.
Right.
But you can't have integrity without authenticity. Like authenticity is the seed of integrity. And I think that's, and as you were talking, I was like, that's what this great resignation thing is about, is that we've gotten so like the workplace, it's an awakening that the workplace
Yeah.
has become so inauthentic that there is a wildfire of lack of integrity. And so people are leaving, they have to leave it to be authentic
Yeah.
because there's so much rub and inauthenticity. But the thing is, it's like the people that are staying there are rubbed too. It's so
Yeah.
sad.
And they're not happy. I mean, that's what it is, very
Um,
sad that because it's like a, well, here's an example. we went through this big restructure at my previous employer. Um, t- like like the entire replenishment department for our whole team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there were 30-40% of the people that decided to be done, like within the
Wow.
entire organization.
Wow.
I was one of them. And so that was just the initial, like, okay, yeah, I pass on this. I
Yeah.
mean, there's still people that are just trickling out now. The sad part is I've got friends that I supported in my role there that are still there that get the brunt of it, like they're
Yeah.
dealing with this team that is, I mean, I think there's two kinds of people that stay.
Mm-hmm.
There's the people that want to actually make a difference and feel like this is an opportunity for me
Mm-hmm.
to make an impact. And there's, well, three. Let's back up. There's the second type that are just hanging on for the annual bonus, and then as soon as all of that hits,
They're
they're out
gone.
the door
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's what companies do. It's
Yeah.
like you get those hangers on until you get that next, big paycheck. And then three, there's the people that really could just care less. They haven't been doing their job the whole stinking pandemic, so why
Um,
should it impact them now?
yeah. Yeah.
that
I think that's
that's
so
probably
true.
very crass, but like that is
So true.
my opinion of like the state
Oh,
of things
man.
right now. And it's just like employers just don't get it. They're like, why is everybody leaving? We thought you would love to do that. I mean, it's like, are you freaking kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
we've got enough on our plate without all of this drama that, hey, is not mine. And I'm realizing that.
Yeah. And it's no wonder, like, we, each of us have, so much. I mean, we're so complex individually. And then when you add us all together, it just gets really complicated, I feel like. And so
Yeah.
without authenticity and clarity, how do you be together well? And what's so frustrating is that all you have to do as a leader is ask and listen. It's like it's
Right.
really not. I mean, come on. Like, ask the questions
Right.
and actually listen. Like, do the work to do that. Like
Yeah.
that, and it takes some work. We're not naturally most of us are not naturally very good listeners.
Yeah.
So, but do it. Do the work. Like, if you want to be a leader, do that work.
Yeah, especially like whenever people are making it very clear. Like I had a one-on-one with my boss every week, and I'm like, these are the same issues. Well, come to me if you have a problem. I've been coming to you. I still have the same
Every
problems.
Yeah.
Like I don't, what do you do? I mean, it's just like,
Yeah. Part of what leaving. So my story is I worked for other people pretty autonomously for the beginning of my career, and then when I met my husband now, I convinced him to start our own business because he could make more money and travel less if we started our own business. And then I had this real desire. So you mentioned the three types of people. I am the type of person that's like, I am not going to give up. We are going to make this thing a better place, and I'm not going to give up. I can see another road. I see another path. I see how we can maybe try it this time. But so I went back in because I wanted to, I think I just wanted to see, like,
yeah,
can I be in this and be authentic and have integrity and develop connection? Like, can I do culture on the inside instead of on the outside? And it's really hard.
so
Very
you're
hard.
on the outside now though, right? You're doing
I'm
the
on the outside. Yeah. So
consulting and yeah.
I consult. So I stay on the outside and throw little nuggets on the inside. Like,
So do
here's a
people
little.
get it, or do they call you but like when there's a
Mm-hmm.
problem, or do they call you preemptively, or do you just get like a mixed bag?
I will say over the last couple of years, I have developed a network of people that get it.
That's
That
good.
I think there have been enough big hits and this great resignation is just in the line of big hits that
Yeah.
people are starting to realize, oh, what, like we have to do something different. Now they have no, I mean, a lot of times no idea, and
Yeah.
there's still a lack of integrity, and it's still inauthentic, but at least there's this opening or this awareness of like, okay, maybe there is a different way to do this.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to think about this a different way. So I am attracting people that wonder about that, that are curious about that. So what I love to do is go in. So a company may say, we're growing and we want to make sure our culture stay, we work hard to make our culture good. And so we want to make sure it stays good as we grow. And so that's one of the things that I get. Or I get, we want a better customer experience. Basically, we want to listen better is kind of what that equates to. So those are the two people I get. And I always say, let's start with the front line. Like, let's ask and listen first. Let's pour into your frontline people first and see what their real experience is. And then I'm going to help you listen to that and make some decisions based on that. That's my purpose. My purpose is listening and connecting, or another way to say that is like sensing and integrating.
Yeah. Because I imagine being on the receiving end of that information is not always pleasant, assuming people are forthcoming and feel empowered to actually use their voices. That's another thing that I think people struggle with it, because if you really, really need your job, sometimes people are afraid to speak up and say what's not okay. Because you're like, on one hand, I'm really thankful I have this job and I appreciate this job and it feeds my family. And on the other hand, like, y'all can do way better.
Yeah. This is
so
ridiculous.
Like having the courage to say that, I bet is pretty tough.
Yeah. I mean, I think that one of the things I realized, and this is really helpful too, as people, one of the most important things for me in growing my own business is sustainability. Yeah. So I have this Post-it note right by me for my business that says, I want a strong foundation of balance and boundaries in order to grow a sustainable business. And so I think that's part of that commitment to balance and boundaries in growth is what I just don't say. That's very hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the bigger you get, the harder it is, because it's like, oh, we just need to get that done. And now you have more people counting on you. And now there's all the pressure, and, there's so much pressure. But then also I'm like, is that pressure an illusion? I think it's kind of an illusion.
Well, it's self-made pressure a lot of times. It's like, are we dealing with like hearts and brain surgery? Like, most of the time not. Like, simmer down and do it right.
Yeah.
Like, take the time to train people, take the time to listen to people, take the time. This is the most important, I think. Take the time to let your people know how their job impacts across the entire organization. Because when people don't understand and they are just working in a bubble, they could give two shits if they're doing a good job.
That's right.
But if they know that it's going to impact Mary in accounting, and it's going to impact Katie in sales, and it's going to, like, all of a sudden you just have more buy-in and you understand how you relate to the bigger picture. And I think it's just so overlooked everywhere I go.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that transparency. And I mean, that's one of the things that I was getting ready to rant about, was just sometimes leaders feel so, I don't know if it's what the fear is. I mean, who knows, but it's fear-based of like, we can't, if everybody knew what was going on, like, then we'd lose control. But you're actually losing control. You're losing control now because you're not being transparent and communicating. Like, just say it. I had another thought when you were sharing that with the bubbles. Oh, because I was thinking too how you were saying like you're in the bubble and you're losing it. And I think even the best cultures, and I think we have to be, I mean, this goes back to my sustainability thing. I think we have to be careful because I'm working with this wonderful client right now that has a great purpose, and they front load the purpose. Like as soon as people come in, they know why they're being brought in. They know what the big purpose is of why they show up every day. And I mean, they're doing that really well. But what it seems like they're missing is that purpose kind of can drain out. Like if you're just filling them full of something, there's a call, like it ends up being a colander. And it's like, because the system or the process or the actual work is draining the purpose out of them.
Yeah.
And so I think even when we leave what feels like, a too tight jacket or pair of jeans, we still have to be careful about, what is the purpose and how is that purpose? How are we living that purpose in all our decisions and how we're building our own stuff, whatever that is. Whether it's a family and a household or a business or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like it was so big for me. I remember my first purpose was to create opportunities for raw faith. So to me, it meant I want for myself and others to always be on the lookout for ways that we can be like unlearning and shedding. That's the raw part, is like just getting down to the beautiful actual wood. Yeah. And then the faith part is really like this posture of openness and receptiveness and trust of something bigger. And I remember when I turned that purpose out, so it's not just for me, but I'm looking now out in the world for people that align with that, and things I could do that were aligned with it. It was so proud. I mean, it was such a shift. Well, it was the moving toward. I was now moving towards something instead of moving away from like, this is not it. This is not fulfilling. I'm burning out and this sucks.
Yeah. It does help us get that clarity though, of what you're not available for. So your next time, it may be a different set of a different set of circumstances, but you're like, okay, well, it's not the same ones, hopefully.
Yeah, I know. Hopefully there's growth. I know. I told my husband recently, I'm like, okay, I think I'm on the third iteration of this whole situation happening, and I'm ready to do it differently now. Like, let's do this different.
So what's the most satisfying moment? Like, do clients ever like graduate to where like they've really just accomplished culture to where they're like, okay, we get it?
No, well, I mean, what I love about culture is it's never really, there's no completion, because you're always either adding or deleting or changing, so that's probably partly why I'm attracted to it. But I had to redefine what success was. Like I went through this 3-year program. It was a spiritual direction program, but it was kind of like coaching and mindfulness, and it was transformative. But through that process and learning to listen really well, I had to redefine what success was.
Yeah.
So I redefined success to be freedom. And so when I'm working with companies or individuals, I'm just looking for that little expansion. Like, oh, you just tapped into something in you or in your organization that could expand and free some things up. And so that's the moment, when like somebody will, I'll be one-on-one and we'll be talking about, that there's an inauthenticity because maybe of judgment. Like they're just judging and critical of every single thing around them. And there's no freedom in that. They're just trapped. And so when we can have a conversation and get to the point where it's like, oh, I do judge everything. Like I am in judgment all the time. Like that, to me, those are moments of completion. I'm like, okay, my work here is done. I feel good about this. Like just those little moments.
Yeah. Do they ever get to the point to where they then realize that like the things that they're judging are really a reflection? Or is that
Of
like
them.
too deep?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or is that
No,
too
I
deep
mean,
for like workplace culture?
I am a deep, I mean, it is all deep to me. Like it all
Yeah.
comes from who you are. And so it doesn't work very well with me if we don't go there. I remember one guy I was working with, and it was, you know, just he didn't trust himself at
Yeah.
all. And that's like from way before, like that's your little boy.
Childhood.
That's your
Yeah.
teeny boy inside of you that doesn't trust the world. And now you don't trust yourself in the world. And now you don't trust your
Your
team
employees. Yeah.
or your employees or the people. And so that little seed creates this culture of distrust, and everybody's walking on eggshells and they're nervous you're going to explode. And so like that's what I see, and the conversations around like how willing are you to heal, how willing are you to see that first of
Yeah.
all, and
That's
how willing are
awesome
you to heal it. Yeah.
that you get so
Yeah.
deep that I mean, like that's not something I would have expected with like a workplace culture
Yeah.
consultant. I mean, like that's
Mm-hmm.
impressive.
Deep stuff. Well, and I think what is challenging in the workplace is that those little, I mean, I'm sure you've had these moments where it's like you have this big burst of new something inside of you, but then you say it out loud and it seems like this teeny tiny speck thing.
Yeah.
You're like, no wait, this is actually like, this is a
Huge.
supernova inside me, and like it sounds like
Yeah.
and that's part of like part of this becoming authentic. I mean, living in more authenticity is it takes a while for us to unsee the patterns we've already seen. Like this guy, people were going to see him as distrusting for a while. Like they were going to have
Yeah.
to do their own work to see him as something different, for him to be received as something like we're all in it together.
Yeah.
And so without everybody consciously doing it, it's very hard to see it.
Yeah. It definitely, I can
Yeah.
see it if if you can get at the top though, it seems like eventually if
It
they
comes
could
down.
maintain that integrity within themselves, that
Yeah.
that could then flow through to the rest of the organization.
Yeah. The idea is that then the impact changes, right? They're more aware of their impact because their intentions are different. They're more
Yeah.
conscious of the impact and making different decisions.
Yeah. So do you find yourself working with like mostly like small business owners or medium or like large companies, or is it just
Yeah.
kind of all across the board?
So it's usually I end up with companies in some sort of growth period. Like they already know what they're doing is not going to get them to where they're going next.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I land, is that gap
Yeah.
and helping them. But it's all across the board. I mean, so I have a book that is now with a proofreader, that's coming
So
out. The ebook
exciting.
is coming out, I know, on November 17th. I'm so excited about it. And what I found as I was doing interviews, so I did like 50 plus interviews for the book, and I kept coming across these leaders that were like amazing. I'm like, what? No, I don't even know about your company. How do
Yeah.
we not know about the work that you are like? You are an amazing leader, and nobody knows
Yeah.
that you're an amazing leader. So my hope, I was so encouraged and inspired by the book interviews because people are doing it. I mean, people are doing it.
I love it.
I do
So
too.
tell us more about this book, the
Yeah.
name,
So
all those good things.
what my favorite, so my favorite space is where customer service and culture kind of intersect. So customer service is my people. I mean, that's who I am, a service person. I'm a 2 on the Enneagram, and so service was kind of like part of who I am. But where we talk about, how customer service, like what's their experience, and how is the culture surrounding the idea of service, and how do we do service, and what are we in service of? So that's kind of the space I love. What the name of the book is, Everyone Is Not Like You. And it's really about creating authenticity and connection in today's workplace. So because I think a lot of times, especially with customer service, we're kind of we're squeezing the authenticity out of them, so that they're living in integrity. They're living outside of integrity, and then we're like, well, they don't have any. They need to. Why aren't they going above and beyond? Why aren't they jazzed? Why are they leaving? Well, because you squeeze them, they're full out of them. But then you have these other, like Zappos and Nordstrom was an old, like these other companies that are finding a way to like fuel authenticity at those front lines. Well, the reason why it works is because those people now feel like they can choose integrity for themselves. They're living and working in integrity. And so they're happy.
Yeah.
Happier.
Happier.
It's really not rocket science, but it's very hard to actualize.
Yeah. So what's one of your favorite stories from the book? If you can give us just a little preview.
Ooh, good question. There's 3 actually that come to mind. One, he had built this company. He had been part of like the initial building of this company that does, it's called NK, Nielsen Kellerman, I think is the name of it. And they do like all sorts of sports, like things like equipment for rowing machines and different sports machines like that. But as they were building the company, they decided that customer service was going to be a pivotal piece of what they did, that they wanted experts that were using the equipment in customer service so that they could mine all the opportunities to better the product at the beginning of the line. And so they built their whole company around it.
That's brilliant.
That is how that's awesome. Like that's how it needs to be, instead of customer service being the end of the line afterthought of like, oh crap, now we need somebody to talk to these people after the fact. So that was amazing.
Then you pay those people for their expertise, and and then they feel valued, and it's just like this whole gorgeous circle.
It is. I mean, yes, it's like it worked. It was so inspiring. And then another leader that I talked to that was actually two of the leaders that were again like, oh my God, nobody knows. We need to put your face on a billboard of like, this is what an amazing leader leads like.
Yeah.
But a local company here in Kansas City, Polysource, Grant John was just saying that he is in an effort to have his people leave fuller than when they got there. So like, how does he send home his employees full for their family instead of draining them down and then sending them home?
Yeah.
So he's like, his whole thing, we've got to slow down so we can go fast. Like we got to slow down and figure out these key pieces before we just go crazy. And like that.
Yeah. And even if they don't get it like
100%
right, it just having that as your compass, like you're going to do so.
Yes.
I mean, like that's awesome.
What better decisions are you going to make for your people having that in mind?
Yeah.
And then the third one I was thinking about was Brian Rempe is CEO of Civic Plus. So they do technology for municipalities. And he was just, such an amazing guy. And he was just taught, for me, it's something I've used in my work to kind of as an assessment, is that policies and procedures tend to be made for people that are fucking up, basically.
Yeah.
Not, this was not his words. I will say he did not say fucking up. But he's like, why aren't we making policies that empower rock stars? And just
Yes.
like, let's assume that everybody's a rock star.
Yeah.
Let's just like go in with some trust and assume that you have what it takes. And how do we craft policies that like propel you and
Ugh.
make it easy for you?
It's
Basic.
like such simple concepts that are just so profound and just so like, how are so many people missing the mark?
I know. It's a
Yeah.
lack. I mean, it's that in authenticity. Like, authenticity is showing up as who you are, and we're
Yeah.
terrified of that. Like, I get terrified of that. It's like it should be this way, and
Yeah.
then when you get into leadership, it's even more like, oh shit, it should be.
Yeah.
And I think when you leave, I mean, I don't know about this for you, but like when you leave that whole rat race and you start your own thing, that fear of being authentic is still there. It's
Yeah.
still like, I mean, that was one of my most recent kind of things that came to work on, is like, your best is enough.
Yeah.
Like, enough with the inauthenticity of like, my best is never enough, and I need to make, and it needs to look this way, and it needs
It's
to be
got to be
perfected, and
perfect. And
yeah, like, no, like, I just need to show up fully as myself,
yeah.
and that is the best I can do, and it is totally enough.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see this.
As a mother, I can. Oh, I love that. Aren't the permission slips so
Yes.
good?
It's just one of those, I guess I should say it out loud since this is a podcast, but it's like,
Yeah.
it's a sticky note. It's I give myself permission to start small, messy, and imperfect. I get better by doing. It's those like,
Yeah.
it's that perfection that has held me back for so
Yeah.
long, to just, which I realize now it's just a whole other thing that wasn't even, it's fear. It's
Yeah.
fear based.
It is fear. It
And
is fear.
so like, yeah, that's a lesson that I have just recently feel like I'm on the other side of. And it took a
Yeah.
long time, but yeah, it's like,
Courageous.
yeah, it's just hard to be raw and to be
Yeah.
messy. And so like,
It is.
really inspiring work that you get to do with people.
I just finished last night a book called Burnout. Highly recommend it. It's by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. I think that's how you say their name, Nagoski. But the last part I was reading was about self-compassion and how hard, like, just how hard it is. Like, when we get out of our patterns, it's hard. It's hard to get out of them, and then it's hard being out of them.
Yeah.
And she was telling the story of someone who, that inner critic, I mean, because that's it. Like, that's who's telling
Yeah.
me that my best is not enough, is
Yeah.
that voice inside my head. And so she was telling the story of this woman that was kind of trying to like characterize her inner critic. Because if we make that inner critic, like a person, then it's easier to detach ourselves from it.
Yes.
And so she was saying that this woman came in and saw her daughter and working on her homework, and was like looking at her daughter and saying, I wonder what her daughter's, what stories are already, like, what does her critic already sound like? And then she realized that her critic was not this, she had been calling her perfect Julie, but
Mm-hmm.
she was actually this little girl in heels and her mom's makeup that was acting like perfect Julie. I know, I was like crying because
That
I
just
was
gave
like,
me
that's it.
goosebumps.
That's me. That's perfectionism.
Yeah.
It's our little girls that need to be seen a certain way. And so then they're like beating us up in our head to be that, when it's like, actually, so she actually says now to that, like, I see you, kiddo. It's okay. And what a term, and like, what a
Okay, I
shift.
just thought I was on the other side of this.
No, it's a keep going. You just keep going
Yeah.
and hitting it at deeper,
Because
deeper
my mean
places.
girl is Sheila. I'm always like, shut up, Sheila, in my head. But
Yeah.
now it's like, oh, poor
Oh,
little
Sheila's just
Sheila.
little. Yeah. Little, like, just scared, honestly, trying to keep us safe.
You can make
So
me cry.
interesting.
That's just wild.
It's good.
So, have you found that the clients you attract are on things that you need to work on within
Oh,
yourself?
God. 100%. Always. Always that. And always like what I'm learning. I mean, the beauty is that, okay, I'm open to that, right? So
Yeah.
I'm open to what am I learning next? And so I'm pulling in resources. So then I can use those resources to help as soon. So it's like always I am learning something and then giving it to somebody else. I'm learning and giving,
Yeah.
like, it's coming through me. And yeah, it's my work.
It's a nice
And
opportunity to see blind spots and stuff too, because I'm sure there's been times where you're like, oh my God, this client is driving me nuts. And then
yeah,
you're like,
this is me.
oh.
Yeah, it's me. It's me. It's me. I know. I know. It is. I mean, it happens regularly. And I think that's the part that is, I'm still on that growing edge of like, you're really putting yourself out there and you're
Yeah.
exposing yourself. So I get to serve as president of this nonprofit board right now. And again, it's like I'm so vulnerable to the learning.
Yeah.
And like, just I feel so exposed. And also that's what I want to be. Like, how else am I gonna learn something different?
Right. Yeah. No, I think it's a good opportunity it's like a double whammy for you. You're
Yeah.
like, oh.
Yeah.
Has there been anything that's really surprised you where like once you got in where you were just like surprised with the outcome, not necessarily the
Yeah.
outcome, but just kind of the process?
Yeah. I mean, well, one thing that always surprises me in my work is that when you give people space to be authentic and seen, that feels safe to them, they will be seen. They'll show up.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's just surprise. Like, I have a collaborator, Maddie, that helps me with the work and facilitates and coaches with me. And she just is always like, God, you didn't, like, you have this group of construction workers coming in and you think, oh, they're gonna fight the whole
Yeah.
thing. And they don't, like, they totally relax and soften into the whole thing. Or you have this group that you think is going to be really like instantly relaxed into it, but you have to really, like, they do not trust the space, and you have to, it takes like 2 or 3 sessions before they really like relax into, no, really, this
Yeah.
is safe, it's okay. And so that's always like, it's surprising how people show up. But I've also learned, like, I guess part of my work has been just to be open to surprise. Like, it always, like, you think that you know, but really you don't
Yeah.
know, you know, which is, part of what happens in corporate. It's like the story is set and it's like written in stone, but yet that's not how we are. Like,
Yeah.
we're evolving.
Yes. Can I ask you a few questions about your book?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just gonna like, if anything makes you uncomfortable, we can edit it out. It doesn't matter because I'm just gonna be like asking all the things because I'm
Okay.
curious.
Okay.
So
Go
I
for it.
noticed, I saw I was creeping on your Instagram and I
Mm-hmm.
noticed it's $2.99, which means I've heard this
Mm-hmm.
like, let me slow down a little bit. I'm assuming you're self-publishing. Is that, and
I
then
have a publisher, but they're publishing it
uh,
through Amazon, which you can do yourself.
okay. Okay.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So I've heard that price point is like perfect because well, one, it's an easy buy, but two,
Right.
because Amazon doesn't take as much money, like it's a way smaller percentage of
Oh,
the funds they take or something.
I don't know about that part. Mine was for strategy. So you have like, you launch a pre-order
Uh-huh.
of the book for 99 cents. And when you launch your pre-order, that's when you can hit #1 bestseller before you've even released your book.
Yeah.
And then you
Genius.
make it $2.99. Like then you move up to $2.99 for the pre-order. And then you release your ebook at $2.99, which then if you can solicit enough reviews, then that does something else to
Gotcha.
elevate the book.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
and then you have multiple. So you have pre-order, ebook, and then next year I'll release the paperback
Oh,
copy of
nice.
it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do
Yeah,
you will you ever like record an audio of it?
I want to.
I love
I love
audiobooks.
like when Brene Brown reads her. Brene Brown is like my
Oh,
measure. I feel like not of like not. I don't want to be Brene Brown, but it's like whenever I feel like that mean girl is happening, especially around speaking, I look at her on stage and she's so real and warm and like draws people in with her
yeah.
vulnerability that I'm like that's where I want to be. But anyways, I love when she reads her book. So I want to read my book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like
When the
that.
paperback comes out, I think I'll release the audio book.
Yeah. You'll have to check with your publisher because I did read somewhere that it's like at that price point, like Amazon only takes like,
So
I don't
many.
know. It was something around it was a lot better to publish at 2.99 than it was at 9.99
Yeah.
because they take such a higher percentage of ebooks or
Interesting.
something like that. Anyway, I was just
Uh-huh.
curious.
I know there's a whole, I mean, with Amazon, there's a whole strategy. I paid somebody that knows the strategy.
That's awesome.
I'm just doing the book. I don't
Well, good.
I hate to spend my energy on stuff. Like I'm not very good at learning stuff that I don't want to learn.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair because it's just like, well, then that
Eh,
takes the joy out of
it's
it. And I don't want
exhausting.
to, yeah.
I tried to do my own like book funnel on like the funnel software and I'm like,
Yeah.
I hate this
It
and
takes all
I
kinds,
can pay somebody else to do it. So
Exactly. I
free to
think
do
that's the
that.
point where you get to where it's just like, okay, I'm going to stay in my zone of genius and
Yeah.
let other people who where that's what I think it's nice to realize is that everybody has their own zone of genius. So something that you
Yeah.
hate is actually a joy for somebody else to do. And like it's part of being authentic is just recognizing that in yourself and just being like,
Mhm.
yeah, I really don't want to do this because it does not light me up. It drains my energy. So knowing
Yeah.
that and being confident to hand it off, that's
And trusting yourself to stay in your lane is we did my husband and I did this work with our friend Katie Winkle one like a money mindset, kind of clearing some energetic
mm-hmm,
barriers to money mindset. But really money and sex and like all of these things have the same sort of energy. So when you
mm-hmm,
just trust that I'm gonna stay in my lane and I'm gonna do and it's gonna cut like I trust that all the stuff is going to come that needs to come, like the support, the money to hire the support, like it's just going to happen. I'm
yeah,
not going to worry about it. I mean, you got to do the things, you got to do
right,
the things you got to do. But yeah, I'm practicing staying in that space.
yeah. I'm just learning about that space and like the
Hmm.
whole well, it's not that I'm just learning about it's finally sinking in.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
takes a while and you got to build up a few examples with yourself before you really start to trust that, oh, okay, it's not full of shit.
yeah. Right. It's true.
It
Right.
can be
Usually
easy.
it is. Yeah, it can't. I know. I mean, I will say actually when I hired the editor for my book, we just happened to meet like I don't know how I saw him on LinkedIn and I messaged him on LinkedIn and said, I'm writing this book. I'd love to talk to you. We talked. I loved him. He got me. I'm like, and this is how easy it is for you to get a client. this is how
Yeah.
easy it is for me to get help for my book. It's this
Yeah.
easy. It can be if
Yeah.
you allow that
Yeah.
to happen.
Well, thank you. That's so generous of you.
Hmm.
So my podcast launches the end of December. Podcast is my birthday. So my 42nd birthday, I figure it'll
Yeah.
go
Ooh,
big or go home.
42. Okay, let me just fill you in on what's going to happen at 42.
Okay.
Because remember, I said I saw this guy, this energy guru guy,
Mhm.
when we were in Sedona. So apparently, at 42, you have an emotional and mental crisis,
Oh, cool.
and it's sort of your, it's sort of like a coming of age, like at 42, into even more of you.
I
Anyway,
like it. I'm ready for more of me.
that's when I left. That's when I left our business, was 42.
It comes full
Mm-hmm.
circle. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm done with all this other stuff.
I
That's really
know.
what it is.
It
It's just
really.
like,
I love the 40s. 40s are so good.
there's
Yeah,
just so
that's
much
awesome. So
power
that's
in that, It's like,
I
it's finally
know.
all the things that you've gone through and put up with are finally like making sense, is what it feels like.
Mhm.
And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. I am now aware of what I'm available for and what I'm not. And it's just
Mhm.
black and white at this point, so
I love
it's
that.
very empowering. So on my 42nd
Cool.
birthday, I'll have a crisis and also launch a
Mhm.
podcast.
This will be perfect to like be talking. I mean, it's a perfect
Yeah.
foundation for a podcast.
I just want to say a big thank you to Rachel for taking the time out of her schedule to meet with me. And let's go over some of the key takeaways from this conversation. Number 1, be willing to have the courage to step into the unknown. Number 2, there's more power in moving towards something versus escaping or running away from something. Number 3, accountability flows from clarity. It's difficult to hold someone accountable when there's not clarity around expectations. Number 4, you can't have integrity without authenticity. Number 5, as a leader, do the work to talk to people, ask and actually listen. Number 6, a strong foundation of balance and boundaries is required for sustainability. Number 7, take the time to do it right. Front load the purpose, be transparent, and show people their impact. If you want to learn more about Rachel, you can find her on LinkedIn at Rachel Keck, that is Keck, or Instagram at Rachel Keck Cares. And her book, Not Everyone is Like You, is linked in the show notes. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with a friend or your boss. Make sure you're subscribed to receive new episodes and consider leaving a review on iTunes. Your support goes a long way in helping like-minded folks find this show.